So if you'll notice it in this chapter, we already discussed a lot of things. So once again, we'll revise and we'll continue from there. So now, first of all, in this chapter, we studied that what do we mean by heredity? So now, what is the meaning of heredity? Can anyone say? So heredity means it's nothing but transmission of characters from the parents to the offsprings. Means if we'll take our parents, for example, and we are the present offsprings. So now, whatever the characters present in our parents, if it is transmission or else transfer from the parents to the offsprings or progeny, we can say. So that is what we used to call as heredity. Is it yes or no? So that is what we used to study. So now, what is the heredity? And in this sexual transmission, how many bodies are involving, like male body and male parent and female parent? And as well as male parent, who is to study, the male parent will produce what, guys? Male gamete, is it yes? So male parent, who is to called as a father, so we can say humans, and the female parent, who is to called as, what we is to call female parent? So female parent, who is to called as mother. So now if we'll take here, so male gamete, male parent always will produce male gametes. That is what we used to call as male sex cells. So that is only we used to call as sperms. And as well as female gamete, we used to call as female sex cells. So that is only we used to call as, so what is the female sex cells? Another name? We used to call as ovum, or we can say it is egg. So now, similarly, in this chapter, after what do you mean by the heredity, we studied the next concept called as variations. So during sexual transmission, means in sexual reproduction, how the variations is taking place from one generation to another generations. That is what we used to call as mutations. So we studied what do you mean by variations. So what do you mean by variations, guys? So we can say the differences in the characters among the individuals of a species, that is what we used to call as variations. For example, if we take the humans, all the humans does not have a similar characteristics. For example, somebody is having black hair, somebody is having brown hair, somebody is having a curly hair, somebody is having a free earlobe, and somebody is having attached earlobe. So this is what we used to call as, even though we are all considered as a humans, we have a certain variations, a certain differences in their characters. So that differences only we used to call as variations. So the most common people, if you notice it, they are having a hanging, or we can say a free earlobe. And if you'll see, some people, if you'll notice it, the side of the earlobe is attached to the side. So that is what we can say attached earlobe. So that is what, like, we can notice it, differences in their characters. Also, characters also we used to call as what, Arvind? Characters also we used to call as another name of characters. Anyone? Yes.
Right.
So these differences in the characters among the individuals of a species, that is what we used to call as variations. So you can see that in which one we can find maximum number of variations, sexual or asexual reproduction, guys. Asexual reproduction methods or sexual reproductive methods, we can find maximum variations. Dana, we can find, yes, you can conclude that the number of variations is maximized by the process of sexual reproduction, and that maximum, these variations, or else we can say mutations during the sexual reproduction, is necessity or it is having importance or not? Is it having an advantage or disadvantage? These mutations or changes, variations? Please respond. Organism is having variation. Due to the variations, is it organism is benefiting or not? That is what my question. Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
So yes, it is very, very necessity. So why it is necessity? Because of anyone? For the organic evolution and as well as for surviving it is mutations, or else we can say variations are necessary for the any kind of species. Yes or no? So that is why in the process of sexual reproduction, a large number of variations are produced. So due to this, the variations, the no two human beings looks same, or else except identical twins, and we can say that it will be helpful for the a necessity, and it is variations is compulsory for every organism for the organic evolution and as well as for the surviving. So that is what we studied. So after these variations, then we studied the concept called as accumulation of variations. Means, what do you mean by accumulation of variations, guys? Anybody? Accumulation of variations, anyone can say? So even with the example I explained. So once again, I will say you can understand. For example, let us take some bacteria. Suppose a bacteria produces, let me take, this is the bacteria. So now bacteria will produce asexual or sexual method, guys? Asexual or sexual method? Please respond. Bacteria will produce the species by asexual method, asexual method of reproduction or sexual method of reproduction, I am asking. Bacteria are single cell organism.
Asexual, sir.
Yeah. If you notice it, suppose if you take a bacteria, it will produce us two more daughter cells, or else we can say two more bacteria. So this is one bacteria and this is another bacteria cell. So by using asexual reproduction. So now if you take for example, suppose that one of the offspring, let me consider this offspring is almost a replicant of our original bacteria parent, and let me take this bacteria which suppose have a variations due to which can tolerate a little high temperature. Do you understand, everyone? So little higher temperature. So actually this died. Usually bacteria cannot survive at the high temperatures. So due to the some variations, if unfortunately one of the daughter cell which is coming from the main parent may survive at high temperatures, which can tolerate a little high temperature, then the other, you can see now this is the variation takes place at this generation. So now what will happen from here? From here, whatever the daughter cells are coming from this parent, then everything can start tolerate a little higher temperature. They will start resisting. Little more heat resistance will keep on accumulating. Once the variation will occur at particular stage, it will be keep on accumulating in this next future daughter cells. And at a certain stage, it will come, the daughter cells which has been produced by the parent organisms, they can resist even highly heat resistance, and they will be able to survive even at the high temperatures. So that is what we used to call as accumulation of variations. Means at a certain stage, if some variations is taking place in a particular generation, for example, humans only you can take. Unfortunately, suppose see, if you go your grandparents, their parents and their parents does not have any kind of this diabetes, we can say. So now this diabetes is starting majorly in these generations only because of our food habits and all. So this diabetes is becoming most common problem in most of the houses. So now if you notice it, once this generation, for example, you are people are now, you are the offsprings. Now future you may become a parent. So at this time, if suppose unfortunately you will be affected with a sugar or we can say diabetes, then this is the variation taking place from your parents to you. So you people are getting, you are benefiting with a new variation called as sugar or diabetes. Now this character is keep on accumulating in our next generation. So now at certain generation you can see that people used to get a sugar or diabetes at even as a kid. You might be notice that cases also. some kids, even a 5 years kid is affected with a high level of sugars, blood sugar and all, because it is accumulating from the one to the another to the another. At a certain stage, it will begins. From later, it is keep on continuing. For example, if you take bald head also, so those who are having, so you might be noticing this bald head, it does not have proper hair, is continuously. This is also, it is not coming from our ancient time and all. So it is starting the variations at particular generations. Do you understand? So from there, it is keep on accumulating. Now you can see most of them, even at the younger age, 20 to 25 years itself. So many, even my friends I used to notice it, does not have proper hair. So they are all getting the bald head at the early ages itself, because that character, that variation which has been taking place, it is accumulating from one generation to another generation to another generation. So finally, after few generations, it is becoming completely, it is coming from the, it is showing or replicating the variations in a maximum level. That is what in bacteria also it is taking place. So usually bacteria cannot survive at high temperatures. So unfortunately, if any bacteria, the daughter cell will survive at any temperature, high temperature, it will start resisting, then that's all. That is the mutation, or we can say variation taking place. So from there, the next generation, every generation will start resisting this high temperature at a particular time. Every variant of a bacteria will be survive even high heat resistance, and they can able to make their next offsprings even that very high and very extremely high temperatures also. So that is only ways to call it as what, guys? Accumulation of variations. So now, due to these variations, we have advantage. What is that advantage? Anybody can say, Arvind? So the great advantage of variations to a species is that it will increase the chances of its survival in a changing environment. So even though if it leads to the drastic changes in the environment, still we people can able to survive because of variations only. So that is what, this is the biggest or greatest advantage of variations of any species. It will leads to the increases the chances or make the environment adjustable to survive the good life. That is what we used to call it as the importance of variations. Hope you all written that point also. So you might be get a sub question. What is the importance of accumulation of variations, or we can say what is the advantage of variations to a species? So by the time you have to write this point. So that is what you have to remember. So everything, it will be helpful. If suppose if it will happen at particular situation, then particular generation, it will be keep on it will keep on transforming from that generations to the next generations. Slowly, it will be become like a major variations from parents to the offsprings. That is what you need to understand. So now this is all about what do you mean by variations and as well as accumulation of variations. And later we have been studied some kind of words which has been, next we are going to study what, guys? Mendels Experiments. Yes or no? So before going to study Mendels Experiments, we need to understand few words. So can anybody say what is that words, guys? We have been studied. First of all, you should understand offsprings. So offsprings, what is another name of offsprings? Anybody? Dina? Offsprings also we used to call it as what? Progeny. Yes or no? So that is, and the next one we should know what is chromosomes. This all I taught you. So next one, we have to understand what is gene. And the next one, you have to understand dominant gene. And as well as what is the next one, guys? Dominant gene opposite? Recessive gene. Yes or no? So nobody is remembering, I think. So dominant gene and as well as recessive gene. So after that, anybody? Kevin? Nitish? So after the dominant gene and recessive gene, we have studied what, guys? We have been studied the genotype.
Genotype and phenotype.
And the next one is phenotype. Okay, so see, this chapter is very important for board exam. I know that PT3 what you people did, nothing your done. I know. So that is so genotype and phenotype, and last one it is F1 generation, and as well as what guys, F2 generation. So this F1 generation only we used to get law of dominance, and F2 generation we used to get two things. What is that guys? Law of segregation, and as well as law of individual. What is the second law guys? What is the law of independent assertment? So that is what we used to study. So now once again we will go with that, because this F1 generation, F2 generation is only very important. Later only we will continue from there. So as we all people know that offsprings. So as we know, what do you mean by offsprings? Offsprings also we used to say progeny, which we are coming like a next generation of the parents is only we used to call it as offsprings or progeny. And later I told you the chromosomes. So chromosomes means in the sense of what guys? What is the definition of chromosomes? Just everybody check your notebooks and tell me. What do you mean by chromosomes? They are the thread-like structures.
Thread-like structure.
Yes. They are the thread-like structures which is present in where guys? Just say, can you say where it is present?
Nucleus.
They are present in nucleus of a cell, and they are being formed of what guys? They have been formed of a DNA carries, which carries the genes. They are formed of a DNA which carries the genes. That is what we have been studying. So now if we take here different organisms having the different number of chromosomes in the nucleus, and if we take for example human, so how many pairs of chromosomes will be there guys? If we take a normal cell of human body, if we take the normal cell of human body, it will be having 23 pairs of chromosomes. In that, how many pairs are similar? In that, 22 pairs of chromosomes match in male and female. Both it is similar in male and female, but in one set of chromosomes is not similar. That is what? In male, if you notice it, both what chromosomes guys? 23 pair. One is XY pair, and in female, both are XX pair. So this is what? The 23 chromosome. So till 22 chromosomes are similar in male and female, but the last chromosome 23 alone, it is different. That is, in male, it is present what chromosome? XY chromosome. And in female, it will be having 2X chromosomes. That is what we used to say, XX chromosomes. So this is what we used to call as the number of chromosomes present in the human body. So like that, if you take different organisms, they are having a different number of chromosomes. So it will be varies from organism to organism. So after that, chromosomes, we have been studied a gene. Can anyone say the definition of gene, please? Kindly. Aishwarya, Varshini, Nitish. What do you mean by gene? Anybody? So what is this guys? These are the, we used to say genes are the what? They are the units of heredity. Units of heredity which will transfer the characters from parents to the offsprings. So that is why we can say they are the main functional groups, or we can say units of transforming characters from parents to the offsprings. That is only we used to call it as genes. So what is another name of genes? Anybody can say? I already taught you. So genes also we can call it as what guys? Alleles. Understanding? So allele also we used to call it as gene. So these are the main units of heredity which transfer characteristics from parents to their offsprings during Vendra, during reproduction. So that is what we used to call it as genes. So after this, we have been studied dominant genes and as well as recessive genes. So as we know, in every organism, including the human beings, so always genes we used to represent with the alphabet based upon the characteristics. So alphabets, for example, if we take tallness. So tallness we used to represent with which letter guys? Tallness we used to represent with which letter guys? Capital T. And as well as we can take, for example, dwarfness or shortness, we can represent with the small t. So this is what we used to call as genes. Understanding? So a gene for tallness we used to represent with the capital letter T, and it will form the same gene and which will controls the length of the organism. So we can say the length of the organism is a taller, or else if it is having a long stem, the strength of the length of the stem of the plant, then the tallness which we used to represent with the capital T. And same way a small plant or else which is having a short stem, that is what we used to call as dwarfness. So this dwarfness we used to represent with a small t. So now you can see, if you notice it, in even the Mendels experiments, we can see the tallness in the F1 generation is called as a dominant trait, and the dwarfness we used to call as what, guys? Recessive trait. So can anybody say what do you mean by dominant trait? Definition. What do you mean by dominant trait? Please respond. Dominant gene or dominant trait, whatever it is. Dominant gene and as well as recessive gene. Can anybody say please? Definition. Now, I will say you listen. Simple language, I will say, try to understand. For example, let me consider two friends are there. For example, let me consider this is Dina and this is Nitish. Understanding? Or else you can consider Dina and Nitish, some other, or some, let me consider. Now here, as I told you, this is Dina and this is Nitish. Now, even though if Nitish is present or not, doesn't matter. Always Dina will decide the characteristics of its group. Means he will dominate everything. He will decide the properties of his team or whatever it is. So that is the gene we used to call it as dominant gene. Do you understand, everybody? So means in the sense of alternative gene is present or not, doesn't matter for that. Always if it is existed, it will only will leads to the presence of characteristics or transforming of genes, traits from offsprings to the parents to the offsprings. So that is only we used to call it as dominant gene. Means in the presence of alternative gene. Understanding? So a gene which decides the appearance of organism even in the presence of alternative gene. Means even though here if you notice it, if Nitish is present also, there is no importance of Nitish. They now only will decide how the team need to represent, how they need to appear. That is what a gene which we used to call it as dominant gene. Do you understand, everybody? Please at least respond. Ashika. So even though the alternative gene is present, the gene which will decide the complete characteristics of organism, the appearance of organism, that is only we used to call it as dominant gene. So now coming to the recessive gene. So let us consider again the same thing. Dina and Nitish only. Now, Dina and Nitish, Dina cannot show his characteristics or the appearance of organism without the presence of Nitish. That is only we used to call it as recessive gene. Means, for example, if we take dwarfness. Sir, I want to get the short plant. So this dwarfness cannot show without the presence of another similar kind of genes. Do you understand, everyone? Aishwarya, Varshini, Bensi? Means even though the gene, if it is present here, this gene cannot make it as a appearance that it cannot decide the appearance of organism without presenting the similar kind of gene. So these kind of gene we used to call it as recessive gene. Have you understand, guys? Please respond. Akshaya, Varshini, this is only we used to call it as recessive gene. Means first one, dominant gene, with or without presence, it will itself decides the appearance of organism. That is only we used to call it as dominant gene. And only with the presence of alternative gene, the organism's appearance will be decided by the gene. That is only we used to call it as recessive genes. Understand, Karthikeyan? So that is why, for example, if we take tallness, so tallness and as well as always genes we used to represent individually or pairs. Varshini, can you say, Tarani? Always genes will be represented as a what, guys? They always represented as a pairs only. It is not possible to represent the genes in a single. So that is why always will represent in the form of pairs. So that is, for example, if we take the tallness, so we can represent the tallness in capital TT, and as well as we can represent the dwarfness in small tt. So this is what we used to say a genotype of the organism. So means in the sense of it is a description of genes present in the organism. That is only we used to call it as genotype. So genotype means in the sense of what, guys? A description of genes, means what genes are present in the organism is only called as genotype. So if we take description of genes present in organism is only ways to call it as genotype. So now with the help of genotype, for example, if we'll take, for example, I used to see that tall plant, yellow flowers, white flowers, like this. Then wrinkled seeds, or else round seeds and all. So the characters which I am able to see, that is what the characters which is visible in an organism, whatever it is, yellow seeds, white seeds, yellow flowers, white flowers, tall plant, dwarf plant, whatever it is, we are able to identify. That is only we used to call it as what, guys? Anybody can say what we used to call that one, guys? The characters are the things which is visible to us outside. That is only we used to call it as what, Ra? What we used to call, guys? We used to call it as phenotype. Understand? So the genes, the description of genes present in an organism, it will say you the genotype, and the characters which is able to see, which is visible in an organism, that is what we used to call it as phenotype. Yes or no, Akshaya? Jesse? So that is what you have to remember. So genotype will describe the types of genes present in an organism, and the phenotype will say us what it looks, how it is appears to us, visible to us, is only will say phenotype. So this is what you need to understand. So now, even we can come to here after this, then we can know Mendels has been done the experiments with which plants, guys? He has been done the experiments with the pea plants. So and he has in his garden only. So this pea plants only we used to call it as Pusum sativum. Okay, so this is the scientific name of this one. So Pisum sativum is the scientific name of pea plants, and which will grow in his garden. So with the help of the observations of pea plants, and he has been made two things. That is what we can say by crossing their parents and as well as next offsprings. That is what we can say F1 generation and as well as F2 generation. So now, before going to study this F1 and F2 generation, first you should understand why he has been chosen only pea plants. Anybody can say, guys, why he has been chosen pea plants? Please. What is the reasons behind a choosing of pea plants by Mendels? Anybody? Kevin? Arvind?
It has more characteristics.
Yes. Aishwarya? Please.
Sir, it has more characteristics.
Yes, that is not. So, okay, we can see why he has been chosen the pea plants only because
the pea plant has 7 specific characteristics.
yes, some pea plants is having tall. He has been noticed it. Next, means in the sense of what do you mean by tall, guys? It is having long stem. Do you understand? And some pea plants having dwarf, means in the sense of short stem. That is the first reason. Next, some pea plants is producing round yellow seeds. Understand, everyone? Round yellow seeds. And same way, some pea plants is producing what, guys? Wrinkled green seeds. So, lot of variations: tallness, dwarfness, round yellow, wrinkled green. Like this, different variations we used to find in the pea plants. And the next reason of choosing the pea plants was they are the self-pollinating. This is the main important thing. Means in the sense of they can generate the offsprings next generation easily. So by self-pollination, that is also he has been chosen. And finally, Mendel is chosen the pea plants because to study inheritance, because many generations of pea plants can be produced comparatively a very short time. Understanding the lifespan is very less, so that many generations we can produce in what, guys? Many generations we can produce in very short time span. Do you understand? So because of this only he has been studied, and also we can much simpler than that of animals. Animals lifespan is more, and it is very difficult to study the characteristics also because of lot of variations. That is why so he has been chosen the pea plants. So pea plants, three reasons. One is a tall plants is available, dwarf plants is available, and as well as round yellow seeds and wrinkled green seeds. Next, what is the second reason? Self-pollination. Understanding. So they can easily produce the offsprings by self-pollination. And the third one, these many generations of pea plants can be produced a very, very less time span. Understanding. And it is much easier to study than that of animals. So these are the three reasons why he has been chosen the pea plants. This is the most important question which used to appear every year's exams in our board exams, previous years, if you notice it. That is what you need to understand. So why he has been chosen the pea plants only? Then you have to write these 3 points. Definitely this is the most important question in this chapter. So now after this we'll go for rules for the inheritance of traits and as well as Mendel's contribution. So that is what we will take. So now Mendel's contribution, before that, if you are going to study, we have to understand 2 words. That is only what, guys? One is, please respond. One is monohybrid inheritance. And what is the second one, Ra? What is the second one, guys? Please respond. Dihybrid inheritance. Yes or no? So one is monohybrid, another one is dihybrid inheritance. So now, if we take monohybrid inheritance, what we will take? Only one pair of contrasting characteristics we will take. Only one pair of contrasting characteristics. That is only we can take what, guys? Anybody can say what is that? One pair of contrasting characteristics if we'll take. For example, we have been taken what? He has been taken a plant called as tallness and as well as what, Ra? Tallness and nobody will say dwarfness. So this is what? A one pair of contrasting characteristics. So if you'll be crossing, then that is what we used to call as monohybrid inheritance. Now if we'll take the dihybrid inheritance, we are going to take two pairs of contrasting characteristics. 2 pairs of contrasting characteristics. For example, if we'll take round yellow seeds. This is a one pair of characteristics, round one character, yellow one character. Same way, next one what, guys? Wrinkled green seeds. So this is the another pair. That is what? In dihybrid inheritance, we will take 2 pairs of contrasting characteristics. That is what? Round yellow seeds and wrinkled green seeds. In monohybrid inheritance, we have been taken a only single pair of contrasting characteristics. That is what? One is tallness. Another one is what, guys? Another one is dwarfness. Yes, please respond. So now in parental generation, what will happen? Nobody is speaking, then how I will get interest to teach. So now in parental generation, first parental crossing. So now parental generation, what he has been taken, guys? Please respond. In parental generation, he has been taken what? Tall into dwarfness. So what is the, Ashika, can you say what is the tallness pair? What is a tall plant? Capital TT into dwarfness is small tt. So now if we'll take the crossbreeding, what is the F1 generation, guys? Please respond, everybody. F1 generation, what we used to get? Everybody. So capital T, small t. Next one what? Capital T, small t. Next one capital T, small t. Next one capital T, small t. So this is what we used to get. So here only, this is only called as law of dominance. Law of dominance, because even though here you can see, even though that dwarfness is present, but every generation, every F1 generation, that tallness is only coming. So that is what we used to call as law of dominance. So all we used to get the tall plants only, and this is only what we used to call, guys, F1 generation. Understand, Arvind, Kevin? Yes. So now, if you choose any two, let me take this is 1 and 2. Now these two I am going to cross. That is what? F1 generation cross. So now if you take F1 generation again, if you are going to cross breeding. So now you can take here. What is the tall plant? So capital T, small t, and capital T, small t. So what is the generations we'll get, guys? Please respond. Capital T. Next one what? Capital T, small t, and last one?
Again small.
Small t and small t. So here what is happening? Tall, and here also tall, here also tall, and here what is happening? Dwarf plants is happening. Yes or no, guys? That is. So now we can say this is only we used to call it as F2 generation. So this is what we used to call it as, what we used to call a law of segregation. Do you understand?